Cheers. Nice.
Cheers.
Ante no suige.
Yeah.
Great. So what are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Ghibli.
Ghibli. First of all, most Americans pronounce it as Studio Ghibli because technically that's how you should pronounce it.
They are degenerates. So I just want to, because you know, I feel that it's the same with like, GIF and GIF. Okay. So
Yeah.
I say GIF.
Mm-hmm.
Do you say GIF?
I say GIF.
Okay, cool. So we can get along. It grinds my gears when I hear GIF.
I know, but that's what the creator calls it a GIF.
You know what? Who gives a shit?
No, but here's the thing though. So the name Ghibli
Yeah.
is the name of an Italian fighter plane.
Okay.
And when you put an H after the G, it becomes a G sound.
Okay.
So that's why it's pronounced Ghibli.
Okay. That's nice.
What?
I'm going to pronounce it the way I want to pronounce it.
I mean, technically, the correct way to pronounce it is Ghibli.
Yeah.
It's like how we pronounce karaoke.
Yeah.
You know, we don't say karaoke, we say karaoke because it's the way you pronounce it.
Karaoke.
Hey, you want to go get karaoke with
go
me?
to the karaoke bar. Oh, man.
Have you ever done American karaoke before?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So we'll jump into the topic after this. But
Just to tell you, we found out that when we talk about other topics too early in the podcast, the view rates go down.
Oh, so do we need to wait?
Can we save the karaoke story for later?
Okay.
We'll talk about Ghibli now.
Sorry, YouTube audience.
Everybody wants to hear about Ghibli. Come on, that's what they clicked on this video for.
That's true.
So talk about Studio Ghibli.
Yes.
Okay, Studio Ghibli.
So first of all, what's your favorite film?
So my favorite film is Castle in the Sky, actually.
What is that?
I don't know. There's something, I watched it so many years ago. I actually don't even remember why I liked it so much, but there was just something in it that was really moving to me. I think it was very, there was something very, whimsical about it, very ethereal about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was really deep.
So there's something that I really think is really kind of magical about, well, I mean, you kind of said the same thing, but I mean magical in a different way. It's kind of magical about these films. And what I'm specifically talking about is I feel like these films are fun and entertaining to watch at a surface level, but then they're fun and entertaining to watch at a deep level.
Yeah.
Right? Because in every single one of these films, there's always kind of a silly, kind of not a really serious tone to the movie.
Yeah.
Right? And they often have fantasy added onto them. And they do approach serious topics in at a surface level.
Yeah.
However, they do it in a way that I feel like it's fun.
Yeah.
Right. And that is kind of targeted at children. Right. But then if you watch the film, you'll notice that these films always take really dark and very serious tones.
Yeah.
And completely just unload throughout the entire film all these metaphors for all these really serious and adult topics throughout the film. And it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Every film is just a masterpiece. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about this before about how it feels like Miyazaki is he's the only animator I know that tries to make art and not entertainment. And we talked about this before about how, I really respect Walt Disney. And if you look at the first 4 Walt Disney films, Snow White, Pinocchio, Bambi, Fantasia, there's quite a bit of dark stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I really like that, Miyazaki kind of kept up with that. And he's like, you know what? It's a serious topic, but kids can handle serious topics.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really feel like Miyazaki's, in my opinion, the only person who's managed to make anime or like animated films, because we can extend this past anime, right? But he's the only person that's managed to take animated films and do it in such a way that I think that adults and children can watch the same film, experience the same things, and enjoy it, but completely take away two separate things. Right. And you kind of see that with Pixar. I would say Pixar, in my opinion, I feel like Pixar comes the closest to like kind of matching like the tone that a lot of Miyazaki films have.
Is there like a movie that really sticks out to you?
There's a couple. I think the ones that jump out to me, I think, are Finding Nemo and Up.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that for sure.
Because those movies approach, like with Finding Nemo, they approach a kid living a life as a handicapped kid.
Yeah.
Right. And I know there's this whole story about like, a lost father and everything, but the real like message is like Nemo's never really treated differently because of his fin.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like sending that message, right? But Up is like dealing with death and loss. Right. And I would say the main difference like between Pixar and these Miyazaki films though is the Pixar films, and I would say like American animation in general, is not subtle in the messages they're sent. Yeah. Like even a kid can like kind of pick up on the themes of Pixar films, for example, or Disney films in general, right? A kid can watch Up and kind of get the idea that it's talking about death. Yeah. Right. But with these Miyazaki films, like I'm gonna point out one. Sento Chihiro. Yeah. Or in English, Spirited Away, right? So at a surface level, you have a girl who enters the realm of the gods, right? Her and her family, they find this abandoned amusement park and they accidentally enter this world of the gods, right? And her parents are turned into like pigs, like livestock, and she's kind of enslaved to work at this place. And you go through this film and it's like, so children will see this kind of like fantasy adventure of like a little girl going into a world, right? But the adult side of that is talking about people who are sold into sex slavery and like the whole like industry that's kind of like unseen.
It's funny. I never really picked up on that before.
Oh, really?
Now that you say it, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it's kind of talking about how she loses her name and her identity. And that's how like people who are kidnapped and sold into this industry are. Yeah. Right. And the realm of the gods is kind of like the unseen underworld of society. Right. Yeah. And so that's
Kabukicho.
Yeah. Literally. Right. Yeah. And so that's like the beauty of these films is that there's so much richness. Yeah. But you totally don't even need that. Yeah. You can watch the surface levels of these films, still get some great themes. Yeah. Like you can watch Spirited Away and go, okay, well, you know what? This is about a girl who's put in a difficult situation and she overcomes it and she ends up being the hero and saves everybody. So it's like there's so many ways you can unwrap these movies. It's fantastic. Yeah. You just do not see that in any other film.
It's a lot more subtle. Like one thing, I was watching a YouTube video the other day talking about how nature is portrayed differently in a Ghibli film versus a Disney film, and how really in they took Princess Mononoke as an example. Sure. And about how in Disney movies the nature is really just the background. There's nothing really special about it. Yeah. But in Ghibli films, there are a lot of very quiet scenes with no music, and you just hear the sounds of nature. And it's almost like nature is a character in the story.
Well, oftentimes they actually are characters too. Yeah. Like, bringing up Spirited Away again, like the person, I think he's supposed to be Tamagawa, right?
I know he's the river god. I don't know which river he's supposed to be.
I thought it might have been Tamagawa, but I might be mistaken. But anyways, he's a river god of this river. Yeah. And like he's all hurt because people are polluting the river.
Yeah, right.
Right? Yeah. And it's like it almost feels like Shakespearean. Yeah. Where like, if you look at like the scripts in Shakespeare plays, like oftentimes like the background props or like the forest or whatever will be represented by a person.
Yeah.
It feels very much like that.
Yeah, no, there's definitely like a whole level of depth to Ghibli films that you don't really get anywhere else that I see.
Yeah.
But what was your introduction to, well, what's your favorite Ghibli movie, first of all?
You know, I've been talking about Spirited Away. It's probably either Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle.
You know, what's funny? I watched Howl's Moving Castle in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
Because I love Spirited Away. I don't remember anything that happens in that movie.
Oh, man.
Why do you like that movie so much?
So, Howl's Moving Castle talks about how war is never good.
Yeah.
Like when two countries go to war, there's no good things that happen to either of those countries. And so one of the really interesting themes that it has is like it has this girl who grows up in like this country vaguely looks like France. And then the other country vaguely looks like Germany.
Yeah.
So it's like supposed to represent two European countries that are fighting each other. And it goes off on this story between this woman, and it's kind of like a cute love story between her and Hal.
Okay.
And like she gets turned into an old woman, but like the audience sees her as the old woman, but Hal sees her as who she is the entire movie and knows exactly who she is. And you don't figure that out. Sorry, spoilers, but if you guys haven't watched this movie already, I don't know what to tell you. But like, so it's like this nice romance story right there, right? But then in the background, you learn that Hal's actually a wizard for both sides. He's playing both sides. He's supposed to represent arms dealers.
Okay.
And how the only people who really benefit from things is arms dealers. So he's helping out one side one week, another week he's helping out another side. And you kind of see like the war play out through scenes where he's going through these portals and everything. And you see first the war starts and everyone's like, it's kind of like, have you seen All Quiet on the Western Front?
No, I know what that movie is, though. I just haven't seen it yet.
So there's a really famous scene in the beginning of the movie where it's a German professor is talking to young boys who recently have graduated college, and he's trying to like rally them up and go enlist and join the German army and fight for the fatherland, like that kind of mentality, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really passionate speech about propaganda.
Yeah.
Right. And the idea that like everyone just gets up into this war frenzy at the beginning of war and just like, you know, supporting and cheering, like, yeah, go troops and everything. Right. And you see that in this movie where like both sides at the beginning of the war are just like cheering. There's all these parades and festivals, and like it just slowly starts to get darker throughout the film. Like first you'll start seeing like farmlands get bombed and everything. Yeah. And, you know, all of a sudden the super wealthy cities are starting to run out of supplies. People are, you know, having to resort to crime and begging on the streets. And finally, like bombers start flying over the actual cities, and the cities get destroyed. And at the end, like both of these societies are just, you know, they've lost their populations. They're poor and they're just ruins. Yeah. Right. And so it's just an incredible story that like just really kind of addresses like these main like really bad points, and I just love it. Man. I love how it talks about that.
I mean, I'm sure that hits you totally different because you've been in the military. You're ex-military, you know. It's I think that's actually a big reason why I feel really connected to this, because I actually really haven't talked about my military experience. I mean, on this channel, but I mean, I don't even talk about it with my family or anything, right? It's kind of like a really kind of private thing that I don't like to get into all that much. But I will say, talking about the events that led up to like the Afghanistan and Iraq war, right? In the US, there was tons of war fury or like war frenzy after September 11th. Right. People were instantly wanted revenge. And the same thing happened back in 2004 with Iraq. Right. Everyone, I mean, there was people protesting the reason why America went to war with Iraq, but predominantly like people were really like gung-ho about it. Right. And
I joined the military in 2008.
2008, okay.
Right? And so this was 4 years after that. And when I joined there, you started seeing the cracks in society, like people just starting to get fatigued.
Yeah, right.
With hearing war happen every day. And I got out in 2012.
Okay.
And
4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I was a little bit less than 4 years. But anyways, but I got out, and then like a couple years later is where you started seeing like society really push back and start to like say we need to be done with this. We need to pull out. And so like that kind of narrative just kind of lines up with Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, I mean, now I think we see, even in nowadays especially, we see that it's not necessarily about the mission of the war. It's about the people behind like the arms dealers and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah,
it's just
it kind of just, you know, it highlights that, like, you know, even if your country won, it's like you didn't really win because you've destroyed your country just to destroy another country.
Yeah, and I really like how, you know, Ghibli movies really don't shy away from those harder topics.
No.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is kind of like what I mentioned with like Pixar is like they don't shove the message in your face, right? It's something you kind of need to like it's almost like you need to watch the film and then go online and see what other people talk about. Yeah. And then they talk, or like watch interviews from Miyazaki when he's talking about these films, because that's where I learned about Spirited Away. Okay. But like watch interviews of like Miyazaki or people talking online about it. And then go, wait a second.
Yeah, I have to watch this again.
It was about this the whole time? And then you watch it again, and you're just like, it's like this mind explosion. You're just like, whoa.
Because you see it through new eyes.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah, so what do you think? So it's kind of interesting how Ghibli became really popular in the United States. Like now, everybody knows Disney, of course, and it's to a lesser extent, but Ghibli movies are also pretty popular. Yeah. But what do you think was the thing that made Ghibli popular in the States?
I think the thing that made them popular is the fact that they didn't try to copy Disney. Yeah. I think because like there's a lot of studios that have existed over the past several decades that Disney's kind of been like the dominant power for animation in America. There's a lot of studios that have like tried to like compete with them, and some of them have had some success, but predominantly like they just try to copy Disney. Yeah. But like no one can really do Disney as well as Disney can. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they kind of just end up looking like these like B-list Disney movies. Yeah. Right. But Ghibli, they don't do that. Yeah. Right. They just do their own thing. It's like, look, we don't need a Disney princess. Yeah. Okay. Our story isn't about princesses, unless it is Princess Mononoke. But but like it's not like it's not following the Disney formula. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's like I can't really think of like any real songs except for like the My Neighbor Totoro song.
Yeah, right.
But like that's it. Yeah. Like I can't think of any other songs. Like the Miyazaki films aren't really known for like musical stuff. You know what I mean? You were just mentioning at the beginning where there's like scenes in nature where there's hardly any sound happening at all. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of like a thing that you never see with animation. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to like, what Walt Disney originally tried to do. Like I shared before, he tried to make animation as art, but then people said, stop being so pretentious. We just want you to make nice, happy stories. Like he was getting, after Snow White, all of his movies made losses. Yeah. Snow White was a really big one. And then the one movie that set them back on their feet was Dumbo, which was the movie he cared about least because he's like, oh, this is just like a kid's movie, you know? And so Disney then really pushed, basically in America through Disney, animation became equated with kids movies or family movies, whereas Ghibli is a whole different genre Almost, it's the same medium, but it's different genre.
Yeah.
But one thing that was interesting for me, because I remember I got the DVD for not Princess Mononoke, for Spirited Away, and actually, it turns out that was the breakthrough movie. Because it was Don Lasseter from Pixar, the director of Pixar. He's the director of Pixar. He saw Miyazaki movies. He's like, we need to get Miyazaki in the States, and he really pushed really hard to get that here. Yeah. And so I think for a lot of Americans, the movie that they recognize the most is Spirited Away.
Yeah, 100%.
But the funny thing is that the first Ghibli movie I ever saw was when I was 4 years old, which is Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh, that's funny.
In Germany with German subtitles, and I thought it was a German movie. Like I only realized, so I watched this when this was like 1995 was when I first watched it, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was a Japanese movie until probably like 2010.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
You didn't see the houses and you're like, those don't look like German houses.
No, I mean, there was a witch in it. They all looked white to me, and it was in German dubbing,
Yeah.
I just thought it was a German movie. Yeah. So funny. It's funny how like that was, so in Germany, it was probably Kiki's Delivery Service was the big one. Here in the States, it was Spirited Away, you know? And it's actually funny. I watched Spirited Away with my dad, and he really liked that movie. So then we were going to watch other Ghibli movies, and we were watching My Neighbor Totoro, and he couldn't finish it because it's a lot more chill.
Yeah.
It's a lot more kind of basic.
Yeah. I can get that.
Yeah. Like, well, if anything, that's more of like a kid's story, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so too. But there's also like, I would say there's also adult themes there, but they're not as like serious.
Yeah.
I've heard people talking about My Neighbor Totoro, and they actually like there's a couple theories about it where the kids are actually dead. Oh. And so it's a story about what happens when like basically Totoro is this forest god, and he doesn't necessarily kill the children, but like they're taken away from like the earth realm.
Okay.
And then this film's supposed to represent that. But those are some like kind of like more dark YouTube things. But I think like the themes that you can kind of get from Totoro is like growing up.
Yeah.
Like, cause you have I want to say it's the little girl who's the older sibling, right? Mm-hmm. And she's the one who is constantly worrying about, I think, taking care of her little brother. Yeah. It's been like little sister. Yeah. It's been like several years since I've seen this, but like basically she freaks out all the time, and like by the end of the film, she's kind of like more confident in herself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's about like growing up in the countryside. So yeah, it's not a dark, serious tone like a lot of the other films are, but there's a lot of like there's still a lot of meaning behind it, right?
Yeah, the funny thing is the Ghibli movie that I've seen the most is Porco Rosso. I don't know why, but I've seen that movie 4 times.
Porco Rosso.
Kurenai no Buta. It's the fighter pilot who becomes a pig.
I've never seen
You've never seen that?
No.
Yeah. It's a fighter pilot who becomes a pig.
Porco Rosso.
And then he falls in love and then a girl falls in love with him and turns him back into a human.
So it's like Princess and the Frog, but you got
Reversed. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how it's like in especially in like modern day American cinema, they're always pushing we need to have a strong female role.
Yeah.
And like they made, what is it, Madam Web or She-Hulk or whatever, like these new characters coming out because we need more female representation. But if you look at like Miyazaki films, the Ghibli films, almost all the main characters are women.
You're like I almost don't think I can think of like
other than Porco Rosso, which is probably why you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Right? They're all female leads.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things that I will say is like it's never really about like their identity though. Mm-hmm. Right? They're just kind of characters in the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. I never really thought about that.
I mean, it kind of goes back to like what we were talking about in our like sexism in Japan episode about how, of course, there are a lot of like issues in men-female relationships here.
Yeah.
But then again, you would see women doing things that are kind of atarimai, like things that They don't really think about very much here. But in America, it's like, what, a woman's doing that, like working at a moving company?
Yeah.
And it's like, in America, I bet you a lot of people who would see a Ghibli movie would say, that's so nice. You have a strong female lead character.
Yeah.
You know? And Miyazaki's just like, hey, I just wanted to make good characters.
Yeah, it's like, I don't feel like they were made female on purpose.
Yeah.
It's just like they fit in the sense of the story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it shows just like the strength of, like in modern American films, when you have a female character, they always talk about the patriarchy, or they beat up men who are like a lot bigger and stronger than them and stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, like there's plenty. Like I don't want to say like all of like Western media kind of follows this, because there's definitely some good examples. But like I'll tell you when there's like kind of grown moments, like like during the Avengers. Was it Endgame?
You know, I've never seen like any of the Avengers.
So there's this scene in the Avengers Endgame where they have all the female superheroes. Yeah. They're like basically everyone's fighting in this big battle scene, right?
Yeah.
And they have this moment where all the female superheroes just happen to be in the same spot, and they kind of like all pose and do this like cheesy like girl power kind of thing, and it's just like I don't hate the message, but like can you guys make this not feel so forced?
Yeah, just make it like more natural.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've had conversations about this, because there's a couple people that I know here that identify as like part of like LGBTQ group.
Yeah.
Right. And I've asked them this, and it's like, so there's a lot of push to have like people in your community represented in film.
Yeah.
And a common thing that I will hear is like, yeah, it's great seeing us represented on film, but I wish that it was done I wish it wasn't made to be a caricature.
Yeah, it's a like, token. It's tokenized. Like, oh, we have our gay character, we're good.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, we need to insert the female character. We need the diverse character. We need like all these characters, and I feel like that's kind of what media in the West has kind of devolved into. Yeah, where it's like, okay, well, you need to fit like little check mark things. Yeah, and so yeah, if you're watching Miyazaki films, like, they never talk about the person's identity or like even really who they are. Yeah. Right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Because in the end, you are the character.
Yeah. Like these characters, I think something that's really consistent with Miyazaki films is the fact that like the character starting out in the movie often has like these pretty detailed histories of who they are. Right? So like, I'm just going to Spirited Away because it's just easy to talk about. But like Spirited Away, for example, you have like this girl who's like moving with her parents. They're coming from the city. They're moving to the countryside. She's like depressed because she's giving up all of her friends. She's like crying about it. She's looking at a message of her friend, right? And you're like learning about the history, and it's like, why are they moving? Well, dad's got a new company, so we're moving to this countryside place. And it's like, none of that matters at all. Yeah. Like who she is doesn't matter. Yeah. Her character is completely reset. Yeah. When the actual film the actual story starts happening. Yeah. Right. So it's just like kind of what you said, where it's like a lot of these characters are written in a way that like the audience can kind of insert themselves into.
Yeah. I really feel like, like you're talking about, so modern day media, instead of like, it feels like modern day movies are made of like content slots where it's like, let's put in this character, let's put in this character, let's put in this thing. And they're basically assemblies of pre-made blocks put together to make something. Yeah. Whereas like a Jenga thing, whereas Miyazaki is making the statue from scratch,
And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because actually that's exactly what happens in Hollywood movies is they are not assembled as like wanting to tell a story. They make them in blocks and then they put them together. That's how modern movies are made right now. And sometimes that does work. But it's often in spite of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like I told you before when we were having lunch, like I really respect the fact that Miyazaki just says, I'm going to make a movie. It's going to take, I don't know how long. The movie makes itself. I'm just here along the way.
Yeah.
And when it's done, it's done.
Yeah. And you were specifically saying like, yeah, it's like, I'll take like 5 or 6 years making this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to just, crank these out when I can. And it's like the guy's retired several times at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and he just keeps coming back.
Well, it's funny because he really is an artist. Back in 2013, there was a documentary made about the life of Miyazaki, basically, and not necessarily his history, but his everyday life making these films. This is over 10 years. Oh shoot, I'm so old now. This is over 10 years ago, right? Yeah. But I remember there's this one scene where he talks about what's the purpose of life.
Yeah.
And like he's in his kitchen, in his dining room, he's smoking a cigarette and he's talking to his friend, and he also talks to the woman who's doing this movie. Yeah. And he's like, a lot of people, they think the purpose of life is to be happy.
Yeah.
And I just can't get that. He's like, I don't feel happy very often in my life. I don't feel happy when I make these movies. These movies grind me down and they take everything out of me, and I never want to do one again. Yeah. But I just come back again and do it.
Yeah, it's it kind of reminds me of like how artists would describe muses. Yeah. As they're not in charge of what they produce. Yeah. They're just a vessel for, something that's coming out of like the cosmos and like kind of working through them. And yeah, it kind of feels like that when Miyazaki describes, how he works.
Have you ever experienced that, by the way?
No, I'm not artistic at all.
Dude,
I'm sorry, man.
No. It's funny that because you talk about that because, I feel that a lot.
Do you?
And even now, like with my business that I'm doing is not art.
Yeah.
But I am building something. Yeah. And I thought maybe you felt that way with your Warhammer characters or something like that.
I actually get made fun of in my group because I actually pay someone to paint my models because I don't know why I've just never been able to get in touch with my artistic side.
Yeah, I would say actually I'm glad you said that because I firmly believe that everybody is an artist. Yeah. It just gets beaten out of you when you're younger.
Yeah, I don't know if it got beaten out of me. My mom was really against me being left-handed. Yeah. There was a big stink raised about that. Oh, I shouldn't say. I'm sorry, Mom. It's not just you, but like my teacher too. Yeah. They really, really tried to make me right-handed. Yeah. I don't know why.
I don't know. So you're right-handed, right?
I'm left-handed.
You're left-handed?
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to which hand you're like.
Well, but the weird thing is I'm ambidextrous. Mm-hmm. So it ends up being like about 50% of the things I do are with my right hand.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I write with my left hand.
Okay.
I throw a ball with my right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I drink with my right hand.
Yeah,
but I eat with my left.
That's weird, man. Yeah. Maybe we could just talk about that next episode.
Yeah.
Man.
I don't know if that's enough content. I mean, that's kind of all there is to it. But I'm down to talk about it.
It's one of those things where it sounds interesting for like a second, and then when you think about it, that's going to be a short episode.
Here's our title. Yeah, what it's like being left-handed. Yeah. So Austin, what is it like being left-handed? Well, I kind of just do the opposite of what people normally do with their hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. So I think that's enough for this topic.
I didn't get to tell my karaoke story.
I'll tell your karaoke story.
You told me to force it all the way back to the. All right. So
go.
So the. Right before I moved to Japan, when I was going on the jet program, my family threw like a farewell party for me. So, my siblings all rented out this giant limo. Yeah. And we went and partied in Seattle and kind of all these places. But a little bit early in the night, we stopped by a Mexican restaurant for dinner, and everyone just got loaded up on margaritas, as is tradition.
Yes.
And then after that, we went to Bellevue, which is like it's a city. It's kind of like the Kawasaki of Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of how describe it in terms of size.
In terms of size,
Bellevue's richer than Seattle, but like that's kind of what I mean. And so like we went out to Bellevue to this bar and just drank a ton in a very, very short amount of time. And it was then decided that we were going to go to an open karaoke bar. And so
so describe what American karaoke is like.
Yeah, so karaoke in America, I mean, I think you can go find booths.
I mean, it's getting more popular now.
Yeah, but the vast majority of karaoke places are not booths. They're actually, I would say, very similar to like really old-fashioned karaoke izakaya that you'll see here.
Yeah, because they are an extension of a bar.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
And in the corner, they'll set up a karaoke machine.
Yeah, and so we went out to this country bar in Kirkland. And this place was
home
actually
of Costco.
Yeah, this place was actually pretty crowded that night too. We went there, and me and I think it was me and my brother mostly sang.
Yeah.
And both of us were just completely like well beyond drunk to the point where like, you know, I'm not trying to say this to brag, but we blacked out several times that night. Okay. Right. There was a lot of drinking going on in this evening. Yeah. Right. And I'll show you some videos later. It's a little bit embarrassing, but like both of us get up like in front of this karaoke bar and we're like trying to sing country songs.
Oh man.
And I remember singing and I remember thinking that I sounded amazing.
Yeah.
And then I saw the video that my sister was recording and I'm just like, yeah, like doing that in the mic. And keep in mind, there's like 30 to 40 people in this bar. Because it's a bar. You know? Right? This is a very populated bar at the time. Right? And it's just like, ooh. Yeah. It sounded so bad. Oh, man. But I love karaoke. I'm terrible at singing, but I love it.
Well, you know, so when we had your wedding in Kyoto, right?
Yeah.
And we did karaoke at the end. That was great. You were the life of the party.
Yeah.
I hate karaoke so much because I used to like it, but then the first 3 times I went to karaoke here, whenever I sing, people would just get quiet. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm the one who like kills the vibe of the karaoke.
Ah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, man. You gotta, I think once you throw your shame to the wind.
Yeah.
That's when you can really kind of.
Well, no. The thing was, like I had no shame in the beginning, and then at the end, I was just like, "Oh man, everyone's like looking away, and everyone's quiet now." Shit. Okay, I'll just try next time. Same thing happened. Okay, I'll try next time.
Just suck at picking songs, I guess.
I'm done. No more karaoke for me. But maybe one of these days.
Yeah.
All right, man. So for the next episode. I don't really have an idea, so we can ask our AA Friends members.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what you guys think.
Yeah, you gave us some good suggestions so far.
Yeah. I really like that we're starting to like include all our friends into you know, the creation of these episodes.
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited to do our Zoom call this month with them because it's like these people who like us and who are with us. We're going to do Zoom with them, you know?
Yeah, I'm really curious because I don't know who anybody is.
Yeah, right? But they know who we are.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, we get to see obviously the backlogs of YouTube, and you know, YouTube will kind of share like information about our viewership and like kind of the demographics of things.
Yeah.
But it's like one thing seeing the demographics of like who's watching our channel, and it's another thing like seeing a face
and actually talking.
Yeah, and actually getting to know people. It's like, why do you watch our channel? Like, why are we interesting?
Yeah, because you and I, we don't really understand it, but it works, you know? So we just
like, you guys like us? What?
This is great.
Why?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, so we'll be asking the AA friends for the next topic. So we'll see what they say.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I'll see you next time.
Yeah.